I would maybe sometimes make that person a target. I actually remember crying about that for a while. My dad actually can make a really good pad kapao. It almost seemed like she's just screaming. It would just be comments like I might be running around on the field and then all of a sudden I might just hear someone say, crazy Asian.
My question to you though is, when did you know?
All of his friends would actually pass away.
The Aroy kick no. Oh.
Yeah, that's actually a great question, Corina. So, there are... What's up, folks? Sawadee ka. Hello from wherever you're watching from, and welcome to episode 3 of the Pet Mark podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be having a bit of a chat about actually myself and what it was like growing up with a Thai mother, a Thai cultural influence in Australia, as well as whether I experienced any racism growing up. And also, we're going to be touching on whether I myself have always wanted to live in Thailand or whether it was something that was just decided quite recently. So for those of you that don't know, I was actually born in Chiang Mai, and when I was around 1 to 2 years old, my mother and father actually moved us over to live in Melbourne, Australia.
So what was it like for you growing up with a Thai influence in Australia?
How's the Thai start give you?
Khop kun kap. Thank you.
Straight on.
Thailand for ya.
Thai people, very friendly, as you can see.
Very giving. Rice with coconut and coconut milk.
Yeah, so as I was saying, there are a lot of cultural influences that I did have growing up, having a Thai mother. So, Mum, thanks for that. Thanks for being Thai. There's probably some that I'm going to miss, but I'm just going to talk about some of the real striking ones that kind of are still in my memory. They're just lodged in there. Now, the first one is Thai movies. So we've got a place in Springvale in Melbourne, Australia. It's like a town. And in this town, it's very much dominated by Asian communities, Chinese, Thai, Vietnamese, I think maybe even a little bit of Japanese too. And you can get all kinds of things from, food, you can rent movies, get your hair cut, do your grocery shopping, restaurants, all kinds of things. And often a lot of these places are very cheap. Now, my mother would go there, I think when I was young, between the ages of maybe 5 years old and 15 years old, give or take, and actually rent movies in the cassette form. And I would often remember that she would be playing Thai movies all of the time. And so, that might have helped me a little bit ingrain a little bit of the Thai language from a young age. Now, I'll have to be honest that 99.9, probably even more than that, % of these movies I actually found extremely boring and I didn't want to watch them. However, there was this one Thai TV series, and I couldn't understand it, but it was called Bisat. If I can find a picture of it, I'll leave it just here. I'm not sure if I will because it's really, really old. But essentially, it was a series, and we actually rented different sort of video cassettes over maybe a period of a month or more because my mum had to go back and get the consecutive volumes of the TV series. But it was basically like a gangster TV show, all in Thai, and the plot of the story was that there was one main head gangster and he had like a team of friends, and they would go around and do gangster related activities. And as the show went on, all of his friends would actually pass away. Bad things would happen to them and they would no longer be in the series. And each time it happened, I remember feeling such a high level of suspense all of the time until finally in the very last episode, Bisat, who I could be wrong about this, but I think he was the main character, he ended up passing away as well. And I actually remember crying about that for a while and getting really upset. So I got really addicted to that one TV show that was all in Thai, but the rest of them were quite boring.
How old were you?
I think I was probably about, maybe 7 years old at the time.
Wow, that's a bit brutal for a 7-year-old to be watching gangster movies.
Yeah, there were no restrictions. It was just whatever was there, I could kind of watch.
And this is how you turned out to be. Yeah. So what sort of food were you eating growing up? Because your dad is Australian, your mother is Thai. I know your dad does cook a lot of Thai food because he has been traveling to Thailand quite often since he was younger. But yeah, I'm just curious to know, because your parents weren't living together. They separated when you were quite young. And you spent half of your time at your mother's house and half at your dad's house, as far as I if I remember properly. And so what sort of food, I'm just really curious about the sort of food that you were eating growing up.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I guess food is such an influential thing, I think, on, anyone's upbringing from childhood. So, we'll talk a little bit about that. So, just a bit of quick context. So my parents, I think, separated when I was around 5 years old, give or take. And yeah, there were no strict rules in terms of how long I had to stay at mum's or how long I had to stay at dad's. But I'd say, sometimes I would stay a bit more at dad's, sometimes I'd stay a bit more at mum's, and it was all pretty kosher, it was all pretty easygoing. And when it comes to the food side of things, I would say, yeah, both my parents are actually quite good at cooking in their own right, cooking different kinds of foods. Now, as Corina mentioned, yeah, my dad actually can make a really good pad kapau, right? And he would always make a really good pad kapau gai. Really, really impressive, actually, with the kai on top. It's like a special Thai way you can say when you put the egg on top of the pad kapau. But then aside from that, when I was at my dad's place, we would often get things just like fish and chips, which is, as the name suggests, it's fish with chips. I don't know if they really have a lot of fish and chips in Thailand, but yeah, there was that. My dad would roast a lot of vegetables as well in the oven. I remember having a lot of roasts, particularly with a chicken. So like a whole chicken in the oven with things like carrots, onions, garlic, potatoes, a bit of maybe a gravy sauce as well in there. Other things like sandwiches. We got baked beans, toast, cereal for breakfast. Kind of a lot of, I'd say it was more influenced by an Australian, culture in terms of the food, but with a little bit of Thai influence there. And it's quite interesting because when we talk about my mum, I'd say it was the same, but kind of the other way around. So what I mean is, my mum would, for example, make a really, really good spaghetti bolognese, which is actually a meal that I would request her to make very, very often. A spaghetti bolognese with beef, so like Italian style, but with just maybe a bit of a tiny bit of a Thai influence, like a bit of Thai chili sauce in there, with garlic infused into the red bolognese sauce. And I still say, Mum, I think, that bolognese that you used to make for me could easily be the best bolognese that I've had, just with a bit of that spice. Really, really nice, and the garlic. So that was sort of in terms of European food she would make me. Again, as well, there would be the Western stuff, like kind of eggs on toast, toast and cereal is a very common thing in Australia to have for breakfast, whereas in Thailand, I know rice is kind of one of the more common things to have for breakfast. But then when it came to the Thai food, Mum cooked a really good diverse range of Thai food. So again, it's your pad kapau, kind of like noodles, some pad thai, a lot of curries, green curry, red curry, all kinds of things, different kinds of kanom, snacks, sweets. She'd often also bring a lot of foods back from that same place where she got the movie, Springvale. So I was definitely exposed to a lot of different kinds of Thai foods from as early on from when I can remember growing up. A lot of fish as well, pork, pork with rice was a really common one as well that I would have. So a really diverse range of really good Thai foods, and often it would be very spicy, so I got used to having spice from a young age, a lot of garlic. And yeah, I remember, often I would come home and typically Mum might actually be so kind as to have already prepared maybe even sometimes 3 or 4 dishes all on the plate just ready for me coming home from school. So, almost every single day. So, she put in a lot of effort there. So, thanks, Mum. I'm thanking you again here. I know you put in a lot of effort there. But yeah, when it comes to food, huge influence. Now, unfortunately, I'm not the best, I guess, Thai cook, which I'm actually quite ashamed of. But hopefully with our cooking show, we can slowly improve that over time, even though I'm not the one doing the cooking. Don't know how that's going to work. But yeah, in terms of the Thai food, that's probably where it lies.
You can, of course, do some cooking on the cooking show. It doesn't have to be limited to me. Yeah. And what I was thinking, actually, while you were speaking is, why don't we get your mum on to the cooking show, and she can make that bolognese that you're raving about so much. Why not share the recipe with the world? Right? It's, food is all about sharing, like your food is best enjoyed when you share it. So yeah, I'm pretty keen to know what flavor she put in that Thai influenced bolognese.
Yeah.
Thai influenced bolognese spaghetti.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Thai influenced spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah.
Thai influenced spaghetti bolognese.
Yep.
That sounds like something that has to come onto our cooking show for sure.
Now, there's actually another memory when it does come to cultural influence from Thai food, and that is sort of going to Thailand in my earlier years. The first time, I think if I remember correctly, actually going to Thailand sort of again after I was born was when I was around 16 years old. So still pretty young. I definitely feel as though I was not old enough to go there and appreciate everything that Thailand has to offer. Being 16, I guess I just wasn't that mature at that age. But one of the things I do remember is just the very simple barbecued pork with sticky rice just on the street. That, I have to say, for a very, very long time was my number one absolute favorite food. Just going and getting that cheap, raw, nice, honest meal. Just the delicious pork barbecued on the side of the road, the smell, just kind of like the feeling that you would get, and just wrapping it up in the sticky rice. I don't know, that's just kind of like so, it's just very much sort of takes up a lot of my headspace. It's just one of my strongest memories of that time. So I don't eat pork anymore for my own sort of reasons, but you know, I have to say, yeah, that's definitely one of my biggest memories. And another one also growing up was actually eating the fish eyes. It was really, really salty, and I always used to beg Mum to just, Mum, give me the eyes of the fish, and used to just pick out the eye of the fish. Whenever we were having fish, maybe at home, a whole fish, or out with family, visiting friends or something like that, I can't say that fish eyes are a part of my diet right now, but definitely something that was heavily involved in my childhood when I would eat Thai food.
I actually think I also liked playing with the fish eyes. I think I also ate a few when I was younger as well. I think it's just something that, you know, as a kid, you're just curious, you know, you just play around with everything really. And so the eyes of the fish, you know, it just, I don't know, it's just another thing to play with and to be curious about. And so you just eat them, right?
Well, yeah, but I was 21.
Oh yeah, I think I stopped doing that by the time I was 21.
No, I wasn't 21, but I was probably like, I don't know, 9 or 10.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. I was around 8. Yeah. And I remember I did have a bit of an obsession with eating the eyes of the fish. Yeah.
I think they're just like, I just remember it tasting just really salty, you know. It's just like salty. That's what I remember. Just being like salty and crispy, you know, because probably cooked on an open fire, barbecue or something like that. And yeah.
Yeah, my memory doesn't go that far.
Also, you know, again from that same place, Springvale, Mum would bring back a lot of Thai snacks, you know, a lot of Kanom, you know, little like lollies or candies or just, yeah, lots of different kinds of Thai sweets, you know. Obviously, a lot of the Thai viewers here will know that Thailand has an extremely diverse selection of Kanom wan, you know, snacks or sweet snacks. And it's almost endless, different kinds. And, you know, whether it's jellies or little biscuits or just kind of like all kinds of things. I can't, you know, there's just so many different kinds. So that was also definitely quite a big impact.
Something funny that's just coming to my mind right now is that the other day you were talking about how the Thai language has loads of tone levels, right? So they would speak low and then high, low, high. And you can only starting to understand now why your mom would be so loud on the phone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I haven't actually asked you, Mum, if you're watching this, for exact confirmation as to whether this is true. I've kind of just come to this assumption on my own, but I'm pretty confident that I'm right. But yeah, let's just see how the audience responds to this. But, you know, basically, it's not just my mum either. You know, when I was growing up from, again, very young age, or through my teenage years and 20s and whatever, you know, my mum would talk a lot on the phone to, you know, family members, friends, sisters, things like that in Thai. And, you know, my mum's not really like a loud person. She's kind of just a normal person when it comes to just like talking, okay? But whenever she would speak on the phone in Thai, any time of day, anyone, any place, often it was always very loud. You know, she would be speaking so loud, it almost seemed like she's just screaming. And because I'm not fluent in Thai, I'm just kind of continuing to learn Thai every day. I've only recently just started to actually realize that, you know, the Thai language, as Corina mentioned, I think Corina also said, was Spanish as well. With the English language, it's a bit more consistent in terms of the tones you use, but with Thai and Spanish, depending on, I guess, like words and moods and things like that, it's very like up and down. Now, I believe that this is one of the reasons why, you know, Mum was so loud on the phone, because it's just her kind of naturally expressing or speaking the Thai language how it is supposed to be spoken in a very natural way. Maybe not exactly the same, but maybe a bit similar to how I might sort of express like my Australian accent. If I'm talking to like other Australians who have like really strong accents, like a really strong Australian accent, for example, often without me thinking about it, my Australian accent will become a lot stronger. Right, it could be a little bit similar, because that's what I noticed. My mum would speak to her Thai friend, and all of a sudden she's just screaming her head off. But whereas with me, when she speaks Thai, for example, because she would speak Thai a lot with me, her tones would be more calm, not so like aggressive up or down. So that's quite an interesting one. So yeah, again, that's just a memory from the childhood. Mum on the phone late at night, just talking to her friends, and then me kind of just being like, or thinking, can you just be a bit quiet, because maybe I'm watching a TV show or doing something else, and it's like, why do you need to speak so loud? But now thinking about it now as a bit more of a grown man, it's just kind of ignorant really, because every language and culture is different in that respect.
Let's hear your opinion in the comments. If you're a Thai person, do you agree that this is the reason Elle's mom is probably speaking loud on the phone? I grew up in Spain. I'm born in London, but we moved to the Channel Islands when I was very young, and then from there we moved to Spain. Arrived in Spain when I was 8, lived most of my life in Spain. I definitely grew up there, been to school there, my friends Spanish, all of that. And Spanish is a very fast-spoken, loud language. I don't know if we shout on the phone, but I do know that we get excited when we're speaking on the phone. It's like if we have this extra boost of energy for some reason, and the language is just loud as it is. But I do think that probably on the phone we are a little bit louder as well. I have noticed that temples, for example, are a very important part of Thai culture. Your mom, for example, she loves going to the temples, and I'm just wondering, as a kid, did you used to visit the temple a lot? What was your experience like from a cultural standpoint when it comes to like being half Thai? Did you do the temple things? Did you do things like that were like a traditional thing to do in Thai culture?
Yeah, no, another really good question, Corina. So basically, yeah, growing up, I absolutely went to the temple a lot. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it was always the thing I wanted to do. I think I felt pretty neutral about it, so I didn't particularly mind. I was kind of like just fine with going. I just embraced it, I guess, just as a part of, who I was, I suppose, from a cultural standpoint growing up. But I realized quite quickly the importance of, going to the temple, not every week, but it was maybe once a month, or if there was kind of a special celebration such as maybe like a Thai or a Chinese New Year or something like that, or just some kind of significance as to why we might go. And yeah, in Australia, all different parts of Australia, there are actually Thai temples. Obviously not as much as in Bangkok and Thailand in general, but there definitely are Thai temples in Australia, for those of you Thai audience, even Australian audience that didn't know. And yeah, we would absolutely go there, and Mum did a really good job of, I suppose, just teaching me how to be respectful in terms of the Buddhist culture as much as she could. And often what we would do is we would cook Thai food, have Thai snacks, could be some drinks as well, that we would just bring down and then offer to the monks. So we would go make offerings to the monks, do a bit of prayer, kneeling down on the knees, doing all that kind of thing, lighting the candles. So that was definitely something that I grew up with quite a lot in Australia.
When you were doing the intro to this podcast episode, you did mention that you would speak a little bit about racism. Now, I have no idea what you are going to say about that, so I'm pretty curious to know, just so that we don't forget, and I'm sure other people listening will probably, want to know what you have to say about that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And I think, before I do get into just a little bit of a talk about racism, I don't have too much of a prolonged story, but I do just want to say that, obviously racism can be quite a diverse and sensitive topic. I'm personally okay talking about my experiences with it. I feel from my point of view that I didn't really experience too much sort of bad racism compared to what a lot of other people may experience. It kind of doesn't matter what culture you're from, you know, there is a chance that where you grew up, you experience a lot of racism, even maybe in your day-to-day life. You know, it might not even have been in your childhood. Now, I would say now, as more of a grown man, 33, some years old right now, I don't experience any racism. I don't experience racism in Thailand, and I don't experience racism when I'm in Australia, and I didn't experience really any racism when I was in the UK. Maybe there was one little time, I'm just trying to think, but I actually can't remember now. But when I was growing up, occasionally I would experience a bit of racism in Australia. It wasn't so bad that I was getting physically bullied for the way I looked or anything like that, but I guess it was more about just the fact that my appearance wasn't just completely, you know, white, blue hair, blonde eye Australian. Now, in Australia, it is very multicultural. Even in Melbourne itself, where I grew up, there is a heavy Chinese dominance influence, right? Heavy sort of European influence, Italian, Greek, you know, Indian as well. So that all being said, it's very multicultural. So Australians, at least in Melbourne, a cosmopolitan city where I grew up, it was not, you know, it was very normal to see different skin colours, hear different languages, that kind of thing. And this is very similar to all countries, really. The further you get away from a main city into more of the country area, I think, you know, these kinds of people are not used to seeing foreigners. So, you know, maybe there can be a little bit more racism in those respects, but not always, okay, but in some cases.
Let me just, sorry to cut you off, but when you say there might be more racism in these areas, what I've noticed myself is, and I've come to this conclusion just, you know, within the past 10 years, because obviously when I was younger I didn't understand, but I believe that it's not necessarily always racism. It's more curiosity, because they're just curious. They're just seeing this person with this completely different appearance. And it's like if you are just used to seeing Thai cats, for example, and then all of a sudden you see a ragdoll just walking down the street, you're gonna be shocked. Wow, look at that cat. It looks different. But of course, like when you were young, say you're a teenager, you're 15, you're 14, and people are just staring at you, and you know that you just generally look different, even when you're back in your own country or in your own hometown or city or whatever. And then you get people staring at you, then you can think that it's because they don't accept you. Whereas it might not necessarily be true. They might just be curious about you.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, Corina, and I do agree with that point. I do think though, and it's kind of hard to tell, you know, I do agree with you, I think that's true, but I also do think, and when I say this, you know, it's from my own personal experience from living in Australia, right? So small towns in Australia often can be a little less understanding of different cultures coming in to that space, right? So for example, there might be a town which is maybe like 3-4 hours drive outside Melbourne, okay? And it's just completely populated with white people, for example. And then if an Asian person, this is just an example, comes into the community, many people in that community are going to welcome that Asian person with open arms, and it's all going to be fine. But there will be the odd person who just doesn't understand the culture or doesn't understand why this Asian person is doing something in this way, or why they eat that kind of food, or why they have this kind of opinion. But of course you can have this in the cosmopolitan cities as well. But I think even just speaking generally, I think there is a little less understanding and I guess misinformation or lack of education when it does come to, I guess, understanding that in the smaller towns. And even when it comes to, you know, physical violence and things like that, I'm not going to get into all of that too much, but a lot of physical violence surrounding racism, particularly in Australia, does occur in some of the towns which are dominated with one particular race. So without getting into too much detail, that does happen.
Okay, so you spent a few years playing football, so Australian football. Do you notice any racism there?
Yeah, so Australian football was probably the main sport that I did play growing up. It was my favourite sport. I mean, I wouldn't say I played necessarily at a high level. I think I was a fairly good competitor for the level that I was playing at. But to really focus and move on to the racism side of things, it would just be comments like I might be running around on the field and then all of a sudden I might just hear someone say, crazy Asian or something. All right, so obviously referring to myself, I think because I felt as though within those leagues when I was playing football, I feel like generally I was probably more of like a top 10% player at least, like a better player on the field. And often the kinds of people that would be shouting racist slogans, words, slurs, whatever you call it, would often be maybe not playing as well as what I would be playing. So I think probably like my ego got a boost of knowing that I was probably better than the person that was being racist to me, kind of enabled me to just kind of not be too bothered by it. I'm not saying I wasn't bothered by it at all. I'd kind of hear it and go, okay. But then I would very kind of be able to quickly move on from that. Or because AFL, Australian football, is a contact sport, so you can, within the rules of the game, actually hurt the other player, right? So, I would maybe sometimes make that person a target on the field within the rules of the game because it is a very aggressive sport, as Corina will know as well. So that's kind of how I would deal with that. And then aside from that, it was pretty fine. A little bit at school, sometimes people would say that I had yellow skin, but often these might be my friends, and it was just kind of like, I wouldn't say it's okay to say that to anyone, right? Because that person, if you're going to make a comment like that, may feel sad or upset by that. And to be honest, at times it would make me feel a little bit sad, but only for a short amount of time. I wouldn't kind of hold on to it for a long time, but you just have to be careful if you're going to talk that way with another person. And certainly unless they're like really close friends or something and you're just having a joke between yourselves, it's probably not okay to just say that to a random person. So for me, that's where I might have been impacted a little bit. So yeah, when it comes to racism, just to summarize, I wouldn't say I had a negative experience growing up at all, but it definitely is there. And definitely there are other peoples with the same race as me, maybe the Asian race, who definitely would have suffered a lot more racism if they had have maybe grown up in other parts of Australia. But Melbourne was pretty good.
When we met in London a few years ago. I knew that I always wanted to live in a more tropical environment, somewhere that was warm, ideally, all year round. I didn't really know where. I thought potentially, because I used to do a lot of meditation, so I thought in my meditation I would see the kind of dream environment that I wanted to live in the future. It was maybe like 5 years in the future. And I would confuse that with Bali, but because I had never been to Thailand. And then we landed in Thailand and we went to a few places, did the touristy things, and I realized actually what I was meditating on was Thailand. So that's when I realized that I would happily love to make Thailand my home. When we spoke about that, you had told me that you also wanted to live in Thailand and you also wanted to move in Thailand. So that was something that we had in common from before we even met. My question to you though is, when did you know? Because you have been coming to Thailand since you were a kid. At what point in your life did you think, I want to live here?
Yeah, look, that's a great question, Corina. So I'd say, I knew from pretty early on, I wasn't sure at what stage I wanted to go and live in Thailand, but the first time, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I came to Thailand when I was 16 years old. So, going back about 15 years now. And after that first trip, I sort of had a strong desire to live in Thailand one day. And the main reason for that is because I was technically half Thai, and I kind of always felt as though I wanted to, explore that side of my culture or heritage, if you like. Hopefully one day become fluent in the Thai language, get to know, some of my Thai family members a little bit better, and just basically explore all of the great things that Thailand does have to offer. And I think, myself already being half Thai, technically, that it would just be a real shame if I spent majority of my life living in Australia, or all of my life living in Australia or a Western country, and not ever having spent any time living in Thailand, you know, I just think it would be a bit of a shame because it is just so different. There are just so many cool things to see and do and cultural experiences to have. And also I think, you know, because I am half Thai as well, with the family and everything like that, it kind of enables us to have a lot of experiences that your typical foreigner coming to Thailand would not have. A quick example is just being here in Buriram, Lampai Martin, the small town where we're living now. If I was just a usual foreigner, we would never have come to Lampai Mart to get this small town experience and kind of experience all the joys and benefits that does come with having family in a small town and doing all these kinds of things, escapades, adventures, and you know, the list really does go on. So I think really from that standpoint, yeah, I just kind of always had a feeling from a very, very, very early age that I wanted to live in Thailand one day, at least for some time. You know, I don't know how long, but yeah, at least for some time.
I think we can pretty much leave it here. That is a lot of information about you growing up in Australia as a half Thai person. It was very, very interesting. There were some things in there that I hadn't heard about yet, that I didn't know about you yet. So thank you for opening up to us about your experiences. And what did you think? Did you enjoy this episode? If you did, please hit the thumbs up. Remember to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like these, more podcasts. We also do some cooking, and we also go out, taste some food, and just vlog a little bit about our life in Thailand.
And also, folks, let us know in the comments section if there are any specific podcast talking points that you might be interested in knowing about as a listener. Could be any kind of topic, doesn't necessarily have to be about Thailand, can be about anything, about myself, Corina, family life, you know, whatever it might be. Let us know in the comments, and you know, we want to listen to you guys as the community. Really appreciate you guys listening in and, you know, hitting that like button. As Corina said, it makes a huge difference for us. Oh, and by the way, guys, as well, so we actually have just set up a membership section. So there are a few different price ranges where you can join, a few different tiers. Now, our content will always be free for you guys to watch. We love what we do, and most of our content will always be free. But there might be some of you that feel like you just want to give a little bit of extra support to the channel. And for those of you that feel like you want to do that, you're going to have access to things like premium experiences, content, things like that. All of the descriptions of all of these things will actually be in the members section here. So if you've got any queries or questions about that as well, feel free to drop us an email. It's going to be in the about section as well if you've got questions about becoming a member of the channel, or even just leave it in the comments too. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that in future videos, creating some more members only videos, and I'm actually going to create a video with Corina just kind of talking about, I guess, some of the benefits that you could expect to see if you do feel like becoming a member.
Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. We hope you have a lovely day wherever you are in the world. Sawadee ka, khop kun ka.
Sawadee ka, khop kun ka. Catch you guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.